Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. You know when you stumble across a song that just demands a repeat? That's what happened to us with KaiserKillers and their track Saints Preserve Us, 25 mix. We snagged a music review to help us unpack it all, and wow, this band is a fascinating blend of punk energy and catchy melodies.
Absolutely. It's like they've cracked the code on how to fuse those two worlds.
Ready to dive in?
Absolutely. This is more than just a band. It's a musical time capsule, a story that stretches back decades.
Okay, so backstory time.
Backstory time. We're talking about a trio from Colchester, England, who call themselves, get this, power pop punk.
Power pop punk, it sounds kind of made up.
Right. But once you hear them, it clicks. The review digs into how they got that sound, and trust me, it's more than just three chords and yelling.
I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
Their origin story alone is wild. Two of the members, Johnny Zero on guitar and vocals and Andy DeForest on bass, have been playing music together since the 90s.
Wow, the 90s. Think of the stories they could tell.
Seriously. Back then, they were in bands with names like The Isolationists and Martin's Dad.
Martin's Dad. Amazing. What a blast from the past.
It's a musical history lesson. Then life happened, as it often does. Andy went the dentistry route. Johnny dabbled in car design. It's wild they found their way back to music, formed KaiserKillers, and brought in Styx McIntosh on drums.
It makes you think about the pull of music, right?
Yeah.
Bringing people back together after all that time.
Absolutely.
And that name, KaiserKillers. It's not your average punk band name.
Not at all. It's a direct link to the Beatles' early days at the KaiserKiller Club in Hamburg.
Interesting.
Yeah, that one detail tells you a lot about this band. They're not just steeped in punk, they've got a deep appreciation for music history and its influence.
Like they're building on what came before, adding their own punk twist. The review mentions this crazy blend of influences, punk legends like the Buzzcocks and Blondie, 60s icons like the Small Faces and the Byrds, even a touch of the Monkees.
Don't forget the 90s, the Smiths, Pixies, Nirvana, Oasis.
It's like they threw everything in a blender and hit puree.
Exactly.
But somehow it works. Now this remix, Saints Preserve Us 25 mix, it's not just a quick polish of an old track. The review makes it clear this is a complete reimagining, a total sonic makeover.
Totally. It's fascinating how they took that raw energy of the original and gave it this refined, almost cinematic quality. The producer and mastering engineer, Francis Guarini, worked his magic at London Mastering Studio, but get this, they also recorded at Beadburn Studios in Newcastle and Strawberry Field in Colchester.
So they weren't afraid to experiment with different spaces to get the sound just right.
Not at all.
Adds to the intrigue for sure.
Hmm.
Now let's talk about what this remix actually sounds like, because the review takes us on a serious sonic journey.
Oh, that opening. Hits you like a shot of espresso, a searing guitar riff matched with Styx McIntosh's drumming. It's technically brilliant and wildly energetic. How do they even do that?
Right. That contrast is what makes them so addictive. You've got that raw punk edge, but delivered with undeniable musicianship.
The review nailed it. They called it punk intensity with catchy melodies.
Perfect. And the production doesn't smooth out the edges. It highlights that raw energy.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about the drumming for a second. Styx McIntosh is like an octopus behind that kit, every limb in sync, driving the song.
The review describes his playing as a blend of precision and instinct. A master of his craft, but also not afraid to let loose and just feel the music.
Speaking of feeling the music, the lyrics to Saints Preserve Us definitely pack a punch. Not your typical fun-loving punk song, right?
Definitely not.
The review calls it a tribute to deceivers worldwide. Dives into these themes of falsehood and deception.
That lyrical depth is what sets them apart. It's not all rebellion and angst. There's a layer of social commentary woven in.
You can hear that frustration, that cynicism in Johnny Zero's vocals. But there's also this element of dark humor, a kind of sardonic wink at the absurdity of it all.
It's like they're saying, we see you deceivers and we're calling you out with a killer guitar riff.
Exactly. Social commentary with a punk rock soundtrack. One thing that really struck me was how this song manages to stay so high energy without getting repetitive. It's like a sonic roller coaster that never stops.
The review attributes that to their clever arrangements and dynamic shifts. It's not just a wall of sound, it's carefully crafted.
They know how to build tension, release it, and keep you hooked the whole time.
Exactly.
And we can't forget Francis Guarini's production. The way he creates this incredible clarity and separation between the instruments.
It's mind-blowing.
Every element has space to shine, but it all works together perfectly.
It's like he found that sweet spot between raw energy and polished production. He's captured that live feel while still giving every instrument room to breathe.
It really is impressive. So we've got this explosive opening, intricate melodies, powerhouse drumming, and thought-provoking lyrics. What's the overall impact?
The review sums it up as being caught in a sonic whirlwind. It's raw, it's refined, and it shows that KaiserKillers are not afraid to evolve.
They're taking everything they've learned and turning it into something special.
Absolutely.
And that's just the beginning. We're going to dive even deeper into what makes this remix such a standout track and what it might mean for the future of KaiserKillers. Stick around.
Welcome back. Before we got sidetracked, we were dissecting KaiserKillers' Saints Preserve Us 25 mix, trying to figure out how a song can be so chaotic and yet so carefully crafted.
Right, like they've figured out how to blend punk grit with a level of musical sophistication that just shouldn't work, but totally does.
One thing this review highlights is how this remix isn't just a polished version of the original, it's a statement. Like they're saying, we're not just rehashing old stuff. It feels like a deliberate evolution for them.
I see what you mean. It's not a complete departure from their earlier sound, but you can hear the growth, the refinement.
Exactly. It's like they took those raw ingredients from their punk roots and added layers of complexity and nuance.
And that's what makes it so exciting. They're not afraid to experiment, to push boundaries, and see how far they can take their sound without losing that core energy.
Totally. It's almost like they're daring you to keep up, challenging you to rethink what punk can be. And that energy, that infectious vibrancy the review keeps mentioning, it's like they bottled lightning in this track.
You can tell they're not just going through the motions, right? They're pouring everything they have into this music.
Yet that passion is undeniable.
Speaking of passion, let's dig into the lyrics of Saints Preserve Us. This isn't your typical love song or party anthem.
It's a far cry from that.
The review calls it a tribute to deceivers worldwide. A pretty bold statement. It tackles themes of falsehood and deception, but with this sharp wit and cynicism.
There's a depth there that sets them apart from your typical punk band.
For sure. There's a line that really stuck with me. Spinning tales, weaving webs, saints preserve us from these gilded fibs.
Wow. Yeah.
It's like they're holding up a mirror to society, calling out the hypocrisy and deceit we often ignore.
You nailed it. And it's not just pointing fingers. There's this sense of shared frustration, like we're all in this together.
It's that mix of anger and humor that makes it so compelling. They're making you think, but you're also tapping your foot and nodding your head along the way.
And you can't forget Johnny Zero's vocals. The review described it as sneering contempt and raw passion, which is spot on. You can hear the frustration, but there's also a hint of dark humor.
It's like he's saying, yeah, this is messed up, but we're going to call it out with a killer guitar riff, because why not?
That's the spirit. Who doesn't love a good dose of rebellion, especially when it's done with this level of skill? Speaking of skill, Francis Guarini's production work here is amazing. This remix is a masterclass in bringing out the best in a band without sacrificing their energy.
The review kept using the words clarity and separation to describe the mix, and it's so true. It's like each instrument has its own spotlight, but they all come together to create this huge, cohesive sound.
You want to listen to it over and over just to catch all the details you missed the first time.
There's this moment in the bridge where the drums cut out, and it's just Johnny Zero's vocals and this haunting guitar melody. It gives me chills. Then the drums kick back in, and it's like being launched from a cannon.
That's what I love about them. They know how to build tension and then release it in a way that keeps you on the edge of your seat. It's a sonic roller coaster, and I'm here for it.
Me too. They're not afraid to take risks, to experiment, and that's what makes them so exciting to listen to. You never know what they'll do next.
That unpredictability keeps you coming back for more. It's like they're constantly evolving, and that's a rare and precious thing in music.
You know, it's interesting. The review describes this remix as a sign of the band's growth. It's not just the production, it's the songwriting, the arrangements, the lyrics. It all feels like a step forward for them.
They've taken what they learned from their punk roots and combined it with this newfound maturity, this sophistication. It's not just shouting into the void anymore. They're crafting these layered sonic experiences that make you think.
And that's what makes this remix so fascinating, right? It's like a snapshot of their journey as artists. And it leaves you wondering.
Where will they go next? Will they keep exploring these reimagined versions of their older songs? Or will they jump into brand new material that pushes their sound even further?
The questions that keep music fans up at night. But one thing's for sure, KaiserKillers are a band to watch. They're making music that's relevant, rebellious, and they're doing it with this passion and skill that you just can't ignore.
It's what makes them so compelling. They're not just creating noise, they're creating art.
It's like they're saying, we're here, we're loud, and we've got something to say.
Exactly.
And I, for one, am listening. We've really dug deep into KaiserKillers and this amazing Saints Preserve Us 25 mix track. Their history, their influences, that blend of punk and melody.
And how this remix shows how much they've grown as a band.
For sure. We've looked at the lyrics, the production, even those themes of deception that run through the song.
But there's one more thing I wanted to touch on from the review.
That sense of exhilaration. The reviewer talked about feeling like you're being swept away by the music.
Exactly. It's more than just a high-energy song. It's the way they build that energy, layer it, and then release it.
Like waves of sonic bliss.
Perfect description. They've taken these raw elements, the punk, those melodies, the driving rhythms, and woven them together.
Into this tapestry of sound.
It's intricate, but also so immediate.
And we can't forget the production. Each instrument has room to breathe. The layers build on each other. It's immersive.
Francis Guarini really nailed it with this mix. He captured their raw energy, but also all the nuances.
It's visceral and immersive at the same time.
He found that sweet spot between chaos and control. The music is wild, but still rooted in this core of precision.
It's what makes this remix stand out. It's not just a rehash, it's a reinvention. Sign of their growth as artists.
Proof that they're not content to just sit back and repeat what they've done before. They're pushing themselves.
And that's so exciting. It makes you wonder what's next. New sonic landscapes, pushing boundaries. What stories will they tell?
Who knows? But they're definitely a band to watch. They're making music that matters, music that moves you.
Music that connects with people.
And in a world that's often so overwhelming and chaotic, that's a real gift.
So well said. That wraps up our deep dive into KaiserKillers and this incredible Saints Preserve Us 25 mix track. I think the biggest takeaway is this.
This band is the real deal. They're passionate, talented, and they're creating music that is both powerful and engaging.
If you haven't had a chance to check them out, do yourself a favor and give them a listen. You won't regret it.
Couldn't agree more. And as always, you can find links to KaiserKillers music in the show notes. And a huge thanks to Dulaxi for sponsoring this podcast.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep listening, and keep diving deep into the world of music.
And most importantly, keep your ears open for whatever KaiserKillers throws at us next.
Ugh.
Because it's going to be epic.